The human experience, with our flaws, our passions, our triggers, our inspirations, and our imprints. If we could see behind everyone's story, then perhaps what we would have is deep compassion. In this podcast, I get the chance to explore these stories from some truly fascinating people in some honest and heartwarming conversations. And best of all, I get to share these discussions with you. I'm Lael Stone, and this is Humans Being. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Humans Being. I'm Lael Stone. Such a pleasure to have you here. My humanness for this week has been all around my midlife journey, which is very apt for the beautiful guest that I have today. But I think what I've really been contemplating or working through this week around midlife is really around, I guess, who am I or where am I sitting in this place? You know, so much of my identity has been around being productive, creating things, helping people. And I'm now at this space where I am really having to sit in this, I don't know, this uncomfortableness of, is that who I want to be? How does that feel for me? Does that serve me anymore? And it's highly uncomfortable. And I find that when those spaces come up for me, really questioning about where I want to be, I try to fill them with being productive or with helping people. And that's been a huge pattern of mine in my life. If I can help others, then I can distract myself from where I need to be. And I'm really watching that pattern, realizing that that doesn't serve me anymore. And so in the space and in the quiet is where I'm having to sit in this uncomfortable story of, well, what if I'm not achieving, and what if I'm not creating all these things out in the world, and then who am I within that? And I'm trying to weigh out whether, it's just my nature of being an Aries and a fiery person that likes to create stuff, or if that, is something that distracts me from actually being content and being who I need to be. So that is my humanness this week, which is really just around the reinvention of the different stages of our lives and where we get to. And particularly as I'm in this place now where I no longer have to mother. I do have 3 children at home, but they're all adults, so they don't require mothering. And there's a lot more space and time for me to do what I want to do. What it is bringing up is this uncomfortableness around this next step in my life and where I want to be. And so I don't have any answers, and it all still feels very confusing, but I am sitting in the curiosity of it as much as I can, just to see what's going to unfold for this next chapter. Because one thing I do know is what I don't want it to be. I'm very clear on that, but it really is about, what do I want? And I know that is a very privileged position to be in, but it's also a big, big question. So that's my humanness this week. I wonder if you can relate. Okay. My guest today is the magnificent, I have to use the word magnificent, Ali Daddo. I'm going to read out a little bit of a bio for those who don't know her. And this was really interesting, I have to say, Ali. When I was reading your bio, I was like, I didn't know you did that. And I didn't know you did this. So this is such a beautiful story. So Alison Bray burst onto the Australian modelling scene as a 16-year-old in the mid-'80s and quickly became one of the country's most recognisable faces. In 1992, she graced the cover of Dolly magazine 7 times, and Clio readers voted her among the top most influential women of the century. No pressure there. She was the face of major brands, and in the 1990s, Alison became the host of one of Australia's most enduring children's television programs, Here's Humphrey. I did not know that. That is so gorgeous. And then went on to host her own afternoon show for the Nine Network. Guess what? In December 1991, Alison married actor and singer Cameron Daddo, and the couple moved to Los Angeles, and she walked away from a lucrative modelling and acting career to follow her heart and achieved her degree from UCLA in early childhood and embarked on a successful career in childcare. And that was mainly in Steiner, wasn't it? Was it kind of in the Steiner field? Yeah, beautiful. And then Ali and her family returned to Australia in 2017, and Ali became patron of Rise Up Australia, a charity that assists domestic abuse families. She and Cameron have 3 children, Lotus, River, and Bodhi Faith. Her first book, Queen Menopause, Finding Your Majesty in the Mayhem, was published in 2022, and her podcast with Cameron, fondly called Separate Bathrooms, evolved into the heart of it. And Ali is also the founder of Aviana, co-founder of Aviana, a wellness brand focused on women's health. And currently she hosts the Foxtel original health and wellness series, Gen Well. So that is an amazing career and where you are right now. But before we dive into all the beautiful things I want to talk to you about, do you relate to what I was just talking about then in that whole, where am I this next stage of my life? Where do I want to be? Is that something that you relate to?
Yeah, I just feel like I feel like every day I'm navigating something challenging at the moment. I just and I feel so different to the mother that I was of young kids. I feel really different to even kids when they got to teenagehood because I what I most related to is yeah, I've got only one kid left at home and she's 19 and she's off and running and that space to fill that was so filled by mothering and so joyfully filled by mothering. That was my lifelong dream. It's all I wanted to be was a mum. And so of course you never stop doing it, but yeah, that change and that shift has been it's been wonderful, but there's been a whole sense of grieving with it. There's been a whole sense of confusion and what do I do now? Yeah, and then who am I if I'm not busy? Who am I anyway? Like I ask myself that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Who am I? Like and what do I want? And what is happening?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
relate deeply.
I mean, because we so identify with the job we do in the world or the roles that we stand in. And I think this is interesting, isn't it? Particularly when you've mothered for a long time, like you have and like I have. And when you're no I mean, you'll always be a mum, right? But when you're no longer needing to be of service in that way, it really does open up this whole other space of like, well, who am I and what does that mean now? And it's an interesting space to stand in. Yeah, it brings up a lot of questions. I mean, we met because Mike and I came on the podcast with you and Cam, which was, I have to tell you, I don't know if I told you this, was one of the funniest experiences because Mike, my husband, is not a front-facing person, right? He's always behind the scenes. And that time we recorded that podcast, he sat there beside me shaking and sweating.
It's fabulous. He was really funny and great.
And afterwards, he's like, I'm never doing that again. I was just like, "Oh my god," he was not his vibe at all. He's like, "No, I'm gonna stay behind the scenes now." And I was like, "Oh, bless you." But I just loved and then we got to connect in person, and, I mean, I just felt such a warming to you. Just, I know you've worked in birth and you work with beautiful little children and just your philosophies on life and just, and for me, I think when I came across you again, well, I knew about you when I was a teenager. I'm gonna get to that in a minute. But coming across you again at this point in my life, for me, I looked to you and I was like, "Oh my god, here is the guide that I have been looking for," particularly through, this perimenopause, menopause journey. I always look for who's walked this path before me, who's done it in a way that feels, in alignment with who I am and what I be, and then when I met you, I was like, "Oh, yes." I mean, I think I've even sent you a few distressed messages at times going, "I think I'm going crazy. What should I do? Who can I speak to?" Because I think it's so important that we have guides to show us. And so when I got to connect with you, I was like, "Oh my god, this woman, I love her so much." I just feel like you've walked the path in front of me a little bit further than I have, and I was just like, "Please tell me it's gonna be okay. Please show me the way." But
Yes.
I feel so grateful just to know you and to connect with you and, just, I mean, I'm just gonna start by saying thank you for who you are and just what you do in the world.
That's incredibly generous, incredibly generous. Thank you so much. And likewise, I was just saying to Cam this morning, I just feel such a kindred spirit with you. And I know you went, yeah, even that place that you went to in Scotland where there's
Keep on. Yeah.
Horn. I was like, yeah, she's just like a little magical witch like me, with the sprites and
Yeah.
all the ethereal stuff. It's just like it's so lovely to connect in that way with someone too.
Well, thank you, thank you. So I want to go back actually to when I first knew of you. So, like probably many people, you for me were the face of kind of the 80s and 90s. I actually had a picture of you on my wall, I think, which I'm sure many people did. And I think, like many girls, I looked at you and thought, oh my God, this is what it is to make it, to be someone so beautiful. Everybody wants to be like, you were representing this story that many of us were sold around. If you are this, then you are in, you are it. Now, of course, back then we didn't have social media, anything like that. It was magazines. Magazines was where we compared ourselves to. And he was this beautiful, extraordinary looking woman that that I just was like, oh my God, if I can be like that, then I would have made it. Now, I mean, of course, we know all of the big machine that goes behind something like that. And I can imagine that that was not all rainbows and butterflies and all those things. And I wonder, I mean, my first question is, how was that for you standing in that place when so many people looked at you or looked towards you and were like, that is it. This is what we're told that we need to be. How was that standing in that place?
I think I think luckily I was somewhat blissfully unaware of it, to be honest. Not a lot changed for me in the sense that I still was kinda living at home. I had 2 older sisters, they never gave me a compliment or told me I was pretty, or I was kinda like the little sister. I didn't have model friends, or I just had my school friends still. So I was unaware of it, but as the more I sort of realized though that, oh, this person recognizes me, or those girls recognize me, or it became actually, I was really deeply uncomfortable with it. Um, because often I felt, unfortunately, there's the mean girl groups would often yell nasty things from across the road or follow me and say, "You're really not that pretty," and so I had a lot of kind of bullying from groups of girls as well, so I kind of just was in this place of like, "Oh, I don't really want to be noticed. I don't really wanna be recognized," and then, of course, I go and date bloody Cameron Daddo, which sort of upped it to another degree. And I was someone that was also deeply insecure as well. So it still boggles my mind in a lot of ways when women, my age sort of go, "Oh, I just wanted to be you." And I was thinking, "Holy shit, when I was that age, I wanted to be someone else." So it's really interesting, it's kind of that whole thing on social media, isn't it? Like, you look at social media and think this person's having this incredible life, and I still get caught up by that, like, "God, this woman's amazing, da 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 da." You come to talk to them, they're like, "Oh, no, I was having the worst day, and I feel like this," and not that I'm not grateful for that time, I'm certainly grateful, but it was challenging, and it's proved to be continuingly challenging in a certain way to have been a model so young, and then age as a model as well, and kind of navigating that, and yeah, there's a bit around that too.
I can imagine there's a lot around that because, I mean, for me, and this is something that I have wrestled with a lot in my life because, and I would say it's probably been my Achilles heel really around, I grew up in a very safe family. I had some beautiful imprints. Like I've always felt loved and seen. And, so the emotional holding of who I am has always felt pretty solid. But my sweet spot has been around appearance, and it's been around how I look. And again, how I often think back to how could it not have been? We grew up in a time where it was, and it still exists today. Your currency is how you look. If someone thinks you're sexy, if they want to, sleep with you, that was such a loud message. And then we have the unconscious messages just from our family units. Without even saying something, there's still something there. It's about how you look. And it's still around, like, oh my gosh, I have 2 daughters like you, that it's been something to try and navigate with them to be like, "You are not how you look, you are so much more than that." But it has been a reoccurring theme in my life for sure. And, more than ever in these last 5 to 10 years as I've reached 50, as my body has changed, as you become on some level can become quite invisible in society because, society absolutely treasures the young maiden beauty. This is the currency. This is what we should all be looking for. And when you are no longer that, it brings up stuff. I mean, I this is really honest and transparent. This was probably a few years ago when I was on the Imperfects podcast and it hit number one in Australia. It was the most shared episode in Australia. Like, it was a really beautiful, big achievement, for my work and what I've talked about. And a video came out about it, and I saw the video, and I remember just dropping in my heart. And Mike's like, "What's wrong?" And I just said, "I look terrible." That was the thing I said right from this video, because it's all about good lighting. We know it's all about good lighting as you get older.
Cat
And he's looking at me perplexed. He's like, "Babe, like, your podcast it was the number one shared one in Australia." Like, he's looking at me like, "What do you mean you're worried about how you look?" And I sat there and I remember us sitting like on the bedroom floor, and it was like teenage me was back and alive again. And I'm like, I've done a lot of great things. I've raised 3 kids, I've built a school, I've done this big TED Talk, I've got courses, like, I've written books, I've done all this stuff. And yet in that moment when I saw myself, I was completely brought undone again. And I was like, "Wow, when when do we get to put this down? When does that stop being even something that is something that we carry forward?" I mean, does that I mean, I can imagine that that is something that has been big in your world just from coming from that modeling industry to, to just growing older.
Yeah, and it's very much heightened in Australia for me. So, when I was living in America for 25 years and I got into, birth assisting, and then I got into preschool teaching. And those 2 things have nothing to do with the way you look.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. And it's all about who you are and how you share yourself and what you're doing. And I think that's why it was so incredibly appealing to me. Um, and then moving back to Australia, which I'm so grateful to be here. It's not, that's just the way the cookie crumbles, but it has become a bit of a stress for me again about how I look, and like, because people remember me, and then I feel like, oh God, they're gonna think I look so old, and like I'm a little embarrassed about this, and then social media, and then because I wasn't on social media when I was in America, and now I am because of my business, and it's the same thing where it's just, and I am just unfortunately, I just am really, really thin-skinned when it comes to negative comments. I just will admit that. Like, I can't go, "Ah, it's a stranger, it's fine, it doesn't matter." But of course, it doesn't it doesn't matter to me. It hurts. I get really hurt, and then it makes me less and less wanting to put myself physically out there, because 'cause I'm like, "What if they say this? What," and it's so that is one of the things that I am constantly wrestling with and constantly attempting to sometimes just bypass, but also, like, just give myself a break, because even when I was younger, like I said, I wanted to look like Christy Turlington, even at the top of my modeling thing. That's who I thought was the epitome of beauty. I didn't look like her. So it's like, for God's sake, I'm now 55. When am I ever going to go, "You know what? You're gorgeous. Look at you go. Your body works. Everything's working. Aren't you lucky you're alive, and let's just roll with that."
Yeah.
That's my goal.
Yeah.
Um, and, like working out, I work out to feel strong. I don't work out to lose weight. I know that now. So it's just, it's a whole head game that is just a constant process.
And that's what it is, and it's deep. Like, I just go whenever this part comes up, it takes me back to teenage me because
Totally.
that was the currency, and I have a friend and we talk about this often, and I go, "If we are 70 and still talking about this," I'm like, "No, like, enough.
No.
enough that this is something that that even factors because like you, we do amazing work in the world. Like I know that. I know that we help to shift people's lives. I know that we stand in this really beautiful place of connection and love and humanness. Yet I can't ignore that that is still something that occasionally pops up. Now it's not as loud as it used to be, but it is still there. And actually what I wanted to do is I want to read just this piece. I heard this amazing podcast yesterday, which I think just sums it up beautifully, particularly around how we look and also moving into this phase of menopause. And I just thought this woman says it so much better than what I can. So I'm just going to read this little bit here. This is from Dr. Hilary McBride, and she was on the Mighty Pursuit podcast. And she's talking really about body image, women, transitions, all that kind of stuff. And she says women, particularly in our culture, are valued for being sexual objects. And typically, as women age, they are seen as less sexual objects. So when we can't objectify women sexually, generally what we do in our culture, we try to make them change or we discard them. So you see this kind of invisibility around the aging woman. She kind of just disappears. And the research literature really hasn't said a lot about women and menopause and well-being. We tend to see aging women through the lens of this kind of body that's decomposing. It's discarded, it's a problem, it's a pathology. But what about the story for women who are saying, actually, I feel more connected to my body. I feel more empowered than ever. I might be socially invisible, but actually I feel relieved to not have to play this sexual object game anymore. So what we found in our research, and these are findings that are consistent across the literature, is that women have this kind of like fork in the road moment as they're aging where they say, okay, I've been handed the script of I have to look a certain way. And there's a developmental crisis which happens at every developmental stage. So when you're a teenager, when you become a parent, you're like, am I going to be able to do this or not? Am I going to lose myself? And you have to face those pieces. And then you lean into people around you who can support you, you meet the demands, and you figure out your way and you find your way through. So it's a bit of an existential crisis. And if we've been supported by people around us to know that this is going to feel a little different and it's going to be a little unusual, but you can find your way, I did it, you do it too, then it can be okay. But when this doesn't happen is when we try to resist the developmental transition and we say, I'm just not going to go forward. I'm going to stay where I am and I'm going to try and use more and more efforts to prevent the thing that's happening from happening. So for women in particular, what this looks like is I double down on my efforts to change my appearance and then feel an incredible amount of shame and distress usually about it. And then time always wins. Some point there is like a relenting. We can see across the literature that body image for aging women is kind of like, I care less about it because I can't really. So even if you've tried at some point, maybe there's like this distress that eventually there's a letting go. But then there's this other road that women can walk down, which they say, oh, thank God I'm out of the game. I'm out of the game I never asked to be in. And then there's a crisis there too, like, am I going to hold on? Am I not? But the kind of allowing of the process to happen, of accepting our body to say, wow, maybe the way that I was being turned into an object actually didn't feel good for me. And I can connect with how good it doesn't feel now that I feel that it's not happening. And I can move into this place of claiming all of those other things about being human that I was distracted from when I was convinced that the only thing that mattered was my appearance or this kind of social power. And now I have another kind of social power, which is that I know things. I've been around the block and I can actually pour into creative pursuits and my identity in another way and nourish myself and maybe the next generation. I feel like when I heard that, I was like, that is everything I've been feeling. And the battle between, do I try and prolong, do I try and stay younger or do I try and make myself look younger so that I have more currency, or do I just go, no, this is what it is to age, and this is what it is being older, and this is what it is to stand in your power within it. And I mean, your book, Queen Menopause, where you share about this transition and other women, navigating this transition. I mean, what was your thinking? Like, how did that look for you?
As far as navigating the transition or yeah. I mean, I feel like the image that I have is sort of like standing in front of a 747 jet engine, and you're trying to stand your ground. And that air coming at you, that force coming at you is society. It's other women's judgment. it's the entertainment industry, it is the media, uh, it's noise from everywhere around you saying, "Don't you fucking age. Do not age. For God's sake, stay young, look young, do whatever you can to be young," because that is, as you say, that's the currency. That is what beauty is. Um, and it's really hard to stand your ground and love yourself in the face of that force. Um, and then, unfortunately, I hear it in my own head. I've I've got that engine, like, roaring in my own head, in my own voice going, "Jesus, you look tired, and Jesus, you look your age, and Jesus, you look, 70 today," and all of that stuff. So, the thing that I the thing, though, that I loved about, writing the book, researching the book, and talking to more and more women who are postmenopausal, and it's pretty much across the board, and we're not talking about that challenging period where everything's up in the air and your hormones are going nuts and you really are having these dramatic body changes, or not, but it's sort of this more like the post, and women were just so free and feeling so excited for the rest of their life and feeling more creative. That was the word I got over and over again. I feel so creative. I feel like and I think I write in the book, it's like, all of what we're doing creatively to create eggs and slough off, the the lining in the body is now being redirected into something else.
Love
And
that.
and I feel like it's just this really, it can be just this incredible time where we just go, "Yeah, I'm not under the male gaze anymore." I feel like I can walk down the street and not get, ogled at or pinched or whatever that is, or I don't know, but it's just there is 100% a freedom that so many women talk about, and I think that's the beauty of menopause, and I think it just allows you. I say, we put on weight in menopause because we're taking up more space in the world.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, and I just feel like that was what it was for me. I had sort of remained this kind of, like, place where I feel like I couldn't have an opinion, and that also came from modeling, and I wasn't sure, and I didn't know, and I should stay small, and I should be the nice girl, and that just sort of got ripped off in a huge way with menopause, and it was like, "Okay, the weight's on, but I feel really, like, ready to kinda do something." I feel angry about a lot of things. And I feel like I can't keep my mouth shut now, where I used to be able to, and it was like, I'm taking up more space, and, I think that that's really important, and there's just whether it's just the age I'm at or how I view women now, but God, I see so many beautiful women my age and older. I just see so much beauty in them, and, yeah, so, I guess it's how we've gotta view it for ourselves. If I could wave a magic wand, I would just I would if I could, I would just stop that first woman from ever having a facelift or
Mm.
Botox, just take it all away, so women just get to age in our own beauty, and I have nothing against Botox or whatever. I think go for it. Like, if it makes you happy, 100% love that for you. It's you just we're all playing catch up, when
Yeah.
that happens.
And it feels like, again, I think, for me, menopause or perimenopause and just talking to a lot of people, I often use the word it's a reckoning. Like, it's like the reckoning of all the stories and bullshit you've carried around, the good girl. It's like all of that is being shed because it's actually asking you to stand, as you say, and take up space and stand in your power. And a big part of that for me, and I think which is what makes me angry, is this story that I've carried around for a long time of just like I should look a certain way to be desirable. And I mean, I've been in a marriage for like, I don't know, we've been together 28 years. Like, it's beautiful and it's loving. Like, it's not like I have to try and prove anything out there yet. It just is still this subtle stuff, which, we could talk about the patriarchy, we could talk about all those kind of things. And I love what you're saying there is just, can we just come to a place where we go, we are getting older and this is magnificent, and that we are, there is so much power and beauty that sits here. I mean, I went through like about 2 and a bit years of crazy hot flushes. Like they'd come and go and all sorts of stuff. But man, that was probably my biggest symptom I've had is these hot flushes. And I remember having some body work done with this woman, and she just looked at me. She was an older woman, and she said, "Oh, you're just burning the dross." That's what she said. Every time you have a hot flush, she's like, "You're just burning away what doesn't serve you." And I was like, "Oh, yes, I am." No, it must have been a lot of burning needed because it was a lot of hot flushes. But it made sense to me. I was like, "Yeah, this is a full transformation here of changing who I am, where I am, how I want to be. Like this is the power." And I think again, I mean, I feel grateful for people like you and people who are standing there. There was a woman I found who's a menopause doula, and I loved that because I was like, "Oh my god, when I having a baby, I needed a doula to guide me through." And there was a
Yeah.
part of me who's like, "I think I need someone to normalize this for me as well." I didn't end up, chatting with her, but I just thought I love that that service existed because I was just like, "I love that." But I think it was, really those elements of just going, "This is normal and this can actually be powerful." And, there's times when Mike would look at me and I'd say to him, "Look, where I'm at is I'm like hurtling to the bottom of this kind of cavern at the moment, and I'm gonna probably just hang out there for a bit and I'll climb my way back up. And what I need is for you to just be waiting for me on the other side. I just need you to just love me and wait for me on the other side because I am just having this reckoning right now and all the things are moving and shifting and bless him, he's like, "Okay, all right, you just tell me what you need," right? But it's been a really interesting deep transition that has brought up so many questions for me around why do we go through this? Why all of a sudden are we no longer fertile, but men are? Like that kind of really stumped me. I don't know if you've got an answer to that, but I'm like, what is the evolutionary process around that we stop being fertile? I can get it as our bodies age, but why are men still fertile? And what is their transition? That what we go through and they don't, and are we forced to go through these transitions like much what we do with birth, and motherhood? And for men, they don't have those as big transitions, and that makes a lot of sense why women often are sometimes more emotionally evolved because we're forced to go through these things. And what is the equivalent for men? I mean, they're all the questions that have been sitting in my head around what is this? What is this? Have you got anything to any insights on that?
I do. Well, firstly, I think, I think the reason that we're our fertility stops, and I look to the whales for this because the orca whales, are one of the other few animals that go through menopause. Not a lot of creatures go through menopause. I think there's like 3 species, humans and 2 other types of whales. And what they call it the grandmother theory. And because it's led the pods are led by females, and they believe that those grandmother whales stop being fertile because they are showing the young ones the way. They lead the pod. And I feel like that's us. That's what women we stop having children because we lead the way. Um, and I think we need to, and we lead the way with ourselves and we lead the way in our community. Perhaps we're thwarted at times, but I really feel like that is why, men are fertile, yes, but we need to be fertile in other ways and lead the way. Yeah, so I think that's why that's my take on that. And men, yeah, men go through their version of what's called andropause, where their hormones shift and change, but nothing to they're just a slow and steady one where we're on roller coasters. But so yeah, we go through a lot, but I think that that's also it is our superpower because, like you were saying, like I I don't know if I was telling. I feel like I might have even been talking to you about this with Mike and Cam, but men, when they get we all talk about the man flu, like we make jokes about the man flu. And it was just understanding this one day with Cam where he had kind of what it was. It's like a sore finger. It was like something so minor. And this man spoke about it, talked about it, looked at it, changed the it just went on. And I was like, wow. wow. And I realized that he's just so uncomfortable with feeling anything that's not status quo and not normal. Where women have dealt with change since the minute we had our periods,
Yeah.
from the age of 11, 12, 13, we don't have a normal. Now, constantly evolving in our bodies, dealing with a period pain, dealing with endometriosis, whatever it is nonstop. Then you go into childbearing years. Then you go, and from that, you're trying to get your body back in some sort of hormonal place that feels normal. And then not long after, you are in perimenopause. And then it's a shake up again. And that's I always say we're the strongest sex because, like, the amount of change that we physically go through, which causes, of course, the emotional change as well. I feel like women are much more looking to evolve a lot of the time than men. Not all the time, of course, but, the women that I mostly know are like, "Yeah, my husband's not interested in this or not interested in that, and is very happy the status quo," where I'm like, "Let's do something different. Let's move to another country. Let's try this." So I think it is our superpower in so many ways, and yet it's a lot to navigate at the same time.
Mm. It really is, isn't it? And I think about that in the terms of long-term relationship. Because again, in those big changes that we're going through, our bodies that hurtling to the bottom of the cliff and just hanging out there a bit and then coming up. And I agree, like Mike's become a bit more slower, he's still steady. As I've kind of moved through perimenopause, I've moved into that normal phase, which a lot of people is like, I don't really want to take care of anyone anymore. And the more that I kind of pull back, the more needy he kind of gets. And I'm just like, no, dude, no, like I'm not gonna, and we've had many funny conversations about it, but I find that we're at another place of reinventing our relationship, like, and you and Cam have been together for a really, like, 30 plus years or something. You know, it's what have you learned through those phases? Because, I mean, I don't know if you're aware, Esther Perel talks about the 3 marriages that we can have sometimes to the same person. That first marriage when we're dating and courting and it's all exciting, we've got our future dreams and all that kind of stuff. Often there's so many insecurities there because it's still all about the external. And then your second marriage is usually when you have kids and you're just totally in that servitude of raising children and trying to have some stability, all that kind of stuff. And then your kids grow up, and then you've got this third marriage where really you're like, it's about you two again and this new space that you're occupying. And we are definitely in this third marriage now where we're like, well, what do we want and where are we? And it's interesting because again, there's parts of me that just kind of go, oh, I'd probably just be happy living on my own. I mean, it's not what I want. I choose I want to be with him, but I don't really have a deep need, whereas I probably used to a long time ago. But I feel like he's become a bit more like, no, like, where are you? Like, come back here, and I know that that's the case with many different women that I've spoken to too. Like,
Yeah.
what have you learned through this in this third marriage stage? Like, what please tell me your wisdom.
I just made me laugh too. I have a friend of mine who's this similar age, long-term relationship, and she called me the other day. She goes, "I am just so angry with my husband." I was like, "Why?" She goes, "He came down the stairs and he goes, 'Which blue suit should I wear? This one or that one?'" She's like, "I don't care. I don't care what suit he wears. Do not ask me. I
Yeah.
am dealing with so much other stuff. Do not bother me with your blue suit."
Yes. Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
like, "I am empathy out, like,
Yes.
self-care."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, I hear you."
Mm.
She's like, "20 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have been like, 'Let's have a think about this, honey.'" Oh, still, now she's like, "No." It's like, "I get it. I get it." Oh gosh, the way I think about it with Cam and I, yeah, I'm 55. I've been with him since I was 20. So, it has truly been so many evolving, uh, scenarios of our relationship. Um, and I actually like that, in because it's sort of I feel like we have to keep reinventing ourselves as a couple, and there's something that kind of feels new and exciting about that in a lot of ways, as long as and we're lucky because we do talk about all that, and we have a great, we're able to communicate really, really well, and I'm lucky that Cam is also, um, you know, what can I do? Like, how do we make this better? And this feels like this. And so he's very communicative in so many ways. Um, and there are times like you, Lael, where I'm like, yeah, I think I just need a year away on my own and go to, I don't know, I just go live in Scotland for a year on my own. Um, and then of course I come back to like, but he's my friend. He's my dear friend. Of course I want to be with him. Of course I love being around him. And when we enter the grandparent years, I'm like, there's no one else I want to be a grandparent with but him. Um, but I do think it has to be like I heard the most beautiful thing from a couple the other day. We were talking to them on our podcast, John Butler and his wife, and they'd been together a really long time, and they hit a very difficult point in their marriage where they were like, "Do we stay or do we go?" And they decided to stay, and they said, "And we decided to make art from our marriage." Yeah, and Cam and I were like, "That is so beautiful, like, let's make art from our marriage. How do we make it really beautiful? Like, what do to make it like a beautiful painting for ourselves where we're really proud of it and we can demonstrate to the kids that we're still doing things that are really beautiful, together." And we attempt to do that thing where it's like, okay, every month choose something that I've never done before. We do all those things. Sometimes it works, sometimes, but yeah, look, we do try to do things where it's like, let's learn something new together. Let's learn something. Currently we've got a caravan. So we're learning all about a caravan. And that really helps. Like finding something new that neither of you've ever done to try and do something together. It just brings so much joy and life back in. But I was saying to Cam the other day that I'm really aware of for myself, I do this with him, and I know I can hear it in him, is that we're not I'm not as interested in when he comes to tell me stuff anymore. Like, I can feel that, like, "Uh-huh," and a little internal eye roll of like, great, that's great, uh-huh." And same when I go to tell him something, and I just need to like, yeah, mhm." And I'm like, "God, that feels shitty." That feels really shitty. So, we had a conversation about that the other day where it's like, how do we get back to being curious, really deeply listening to each other so it feel intimate again? Because I think that's really easy. It's an easy place to let slip.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. Like, it really does depend where I'm sitting. Like, there's times where I cannot even be in the room if Michael's chewing. I just can't. I am good at removing myself. Like, probably my superpower as I navigate this phase is if I am feeling irritated, I'll just actually take myself out of the space. It's just better for everybody. I mean, I'm not a yelling, angry person at all, but I just kinda shut down a bit. So I just now remove myself,
Yeah.
which helps. And, the other 2 things that I found has been really helpful is I mean, I travel a bit for work, and actually, sometimes it's good to be away from each other, to have a
Oh,
night or 2 sleeping in
so
different
good.
beds. I
Yeah.
actually look forward to seeing him again. I'm excited, like, I'm actually seeing that the space is a really good thing, which I've heard about before. It creates a bit of that longing and missing, which is really beautiful. But also, I think I love that art thing. That is so beautiful. I also think that what we've decided to do is play more, like, be silly. And so we are being Mike's a really playful guy, so he always kind of brings that, and, I'm just always looking too grumpy and stern, and he calls me out on that, which is beautiful. But I think I've realized that what also is gonna help us is play, is to be really
Yeah.
silly, to play together, just stuff that the kids sometimes roll their eyes at, but I think that we are laughing a lot more together, which is really beautiful, and I think that that's a really good thing, that I'm like, this it takes work. Like, and I really do see all relationships take work, but long-term relationships take work because you don't have the mystery and so much anymore. And there's nothing that they don't really know about you. And just all of that stuff, like, it takes away that kind of, mystique and desire and sexiness and all that kind of stuff. So you really do have to work on it. And I mean, there's also this beautiful intimacy and comfort and knowing that he's so divine. Like, he's my safest person. I know he has got my back. I know he would defend me in any case that I need. I can trust him 100%. But also, the downsides of that is that you can get really complacent with each other, and it definitely takes work, to keep it alive and I think you're so right. Like what you say about Cam is that you will communicate. And I think that's what we do a lot of too. We talk about it. Where are we at? How do we not feel stale? And, how do we kind of keep that magic there? But it's easy to put fifth down the line, you
Oh,
know, very easy to do that. And look, so many young mums would know that. When you have kids, it becomes all about your children, and so often your relationship is way down the list. Yet we know, what really helps in families is when, as a couple, we're connected and united, and that's the important part. But it's a really interesting phase to navigate relationships. In this third marriage, I'm watching it with deep curiosity. I'm watching who's doing it well, and talking to other people about how's it feeling for you and what is working? Because 'cause I'm also seeing a lot of people who are pretty unhappy, and it's not
absolutely.
feeling good. Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think, I mean, it's no small wonder that, you know, the time of menopause is the biggest time for divorce, and whether that's women waking up to going, "Oh, this has not been good for ages, I want more," or whether it's like, "I'm having trouble navigating, my husband can't deal with it, we've stopped having sex, he's left, he's gone to another woman," like, whatever it is, but it does comes as no surprise because I think so much happens in relationship around this time and, men that's why our men needs to be educated about what's going on and understand it and hopefully have empathy and kindness around it, and, we need to understand that they're going through it as well and, trying to navigate it as best as they can, but I know I'm a completely different person in so many ways to the woman that Cam married. I was just so devoted to him, so devoted. I created my world around this man. Now I'm like, "Nah, not doing that. Not going there. That's not it. You you can't say that. That's not true." Like, he's like, "Okay. Yep. Alright. Okay, got it. Yep, right." It's like, it's a lot to sort of take on, I know, for him to be married to me now in a lot of ways, so
Yeah. It's so interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's the evolution of ourselves. You think about those beautiful young maidens that we were, right? Like I was saying, I got together with Mike, like, when I was 21 or 22, yeah, just, of course, you don't know what you don't know, and it's the evolution of going through motherhood and birth and babies and raising children, all the things that brings you to this point where it's like a homecoming. That's what I think. It's a coming home to yourself. It's claiming that space, as you say. It's standing, in your authenticity in a whole new way, and it's a different relationship.
yeah.
It's a whole different space, and yeah, it's times where it feels wobbly, like, "Are we hanging on here within this?" And,
Like,
that again, I think is a really interesting space, and I mean, just circling back to what you were saying about the whales and, that beautiful grandmother guiding and all that stuff. I mean, I get that. It's like what our culture needs and it's
yeah,
what our society needs. But I think, and this is why I'm really excited about the business that you and Mary have with Aviana, is that our culture, though, hasn't for a very long time recognized that. Of
yeah,
course, we're still worshiping youth. We're worshiping money. We're worshiping external factors that, are success. And there has been a swing more towards actually what's important. We can thank COVID on some level, as much as it was a shit show, for there was a part of, well, what actually is connection and what is important in our lives now, which we saw was people
yeah,
and how our hearts and taking care of ourselves and our nervous systems. So there's been a big swing to more consciousness and more awareness. And, I feel excited as more and more of these women are standing up that we're like, "Hey, this actually needs to shift and change now." I mean, what was for you and Mary creating Aviana, which I highly recommend everyone go and check out because it's such a beautiful resource. It is such a beautiful resource of permission. That's what I find, that it really is just this like, yes, be you, and here's things that can support you to be you. I mean, what is your hopes and dreams for that, for this beautiful business and offering that you've got?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. It really is. We just wanted to create something that would have helped us. That both of us went through a deeply challenging time through perimenopause, and at that time we felt there was absolutely nothing, and there's just still for such a natural process for the body to go through, there's still just not enough service around it, not enough information, not enough support, and not enough, like, dare I say, celebration
Mm.
around it.
Yeah.
And it's not that we jump over the shit show because I don't ever want women again to feel like they can't have their feelings because God knows we do that enough as well. Um, but to own the shit show and then go, right, okay, what is next for me? How do I then transition and leverage menopause into something that's really fabulous for me? And celebrate the woman that I am now and just to sort of honor wellness in ourselves. And so that's really what the message and the support and the help and that we are really working on and intending to give as much as we possibly can to women. And when I was doing the book tours 3 years ago, and I always reference this because the thing that struck me the most was going out to the beautiful country areas in Australia, which were always my favorite thing to do. And every woman in town would show up for these because it was talking about menopause. And it was like story after story of like, there's no one here to help. We get a nurse once every 2 weeks. I'm in so much pain. My marriage has fallen apart. I'm in medically induced menopause. And it was like, holy shit. Like this is a army of women that are just being ignored and nothing is there's nothing out there to support them. So they're the women I keep at the forefront for me is those women that aren't in the cities that don't have the access to a doctor,
Yeah.
naturopaths, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the place that you're standing in, and I think through all parts of my life in these big transitions, my question has always been, I get the physical things, but I wanna know more spiritually, like that for me. So even when perimenopause, I was like, "Oh, this is a thing." I was buying books and stuff that talked about the beautiful, deeper philosophical transitions. Like, I was like, "Yeah, yeah, hormones," but I was like, "Why? What is this about? What is it?" A bit like birth, right? I was like, birth is this huge rite of passage, and I wanted to understand what that was calling up in me and who I am and what it meant, and I know not everybody wants to go there, which is totally okay, right? We all meet it where we need to, but I think for me, that's as I was really navigating these last few years, I was like, I want to understand on a deep, metaphysical level what this transition is about. What is it calling up in me and how can I meet it? Like I don't want to turn away from it. I want to meet it and go, all right, let's rumble. Let's see what the gift is here because I had to trust there is a gift in it. And it is exactly as you're saying. It's coming out the other side with this extraordinary, well, and coming home to yourself. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's how can menopause, to use the age old phrase, how can it be for you? How
Yeah.
can we use menopause for you? And I didn't I didn't ask sort of I didn't search out, the idea of who I wanted to be going through menopause and understand it. It sort of came with it in a way, which was really interesting. Like it's sort of like, this is it, this is what you do. And it brought up everything about who I was as a woman, what had taken me to be who I was right now going through perimenopause. And I really loved that. I really loved being able to look back on my life and going, how did I get here? Who did I become? And what do I want to change now? What do I want to do that's different? And that was where I certainly went back into therapy, which has really helped as well. I loved going back into therapy and just working on the places that were still really painful for me. And it's just been like that's sort of become so much more of a passion for me now. And I feel like that's, yeah, again, that's another thing that menopause has brought out in me is like this deep desire to sort of know my journey as a female and who I am and what do I want to keep evolving. And I found that a bit to be quite a common theme as well with a lot of women. And a lot of women talk about, which I think is no surprise either, that often past traumatic events actually come up again. Something that you thought you'd worked through. Here they are again. And it's like there's more. And I feel like that's got its purpose as well, it's like, no, there's something else under this for you as well, so, yeah, a lot of women talk about that, like, "Dang, I thought was done with this one, but here it is," so, yeah.
And I love that because I mean, to me, the whole transition is a letting go.
Yeah.
It's a letting go of who we thought we were. It's a letting go of the stories we've carried around. It's letting go of the imprints that no longer serve us. It's the shedding. I see it as a beautiful shedding. The reckoning. It's the reckoning. You're shedding all the things that no longer serve you, and it's asking you to step into another place. And that's I get excited about that because I'm not there yet. Like I still got my cycle, even though it's a bit of Russian roulette. Never know when it's going to come at the moment. I'm just like, "Oh, we still," like, and each time now I'm like, "Oh, is this gonna be the last? I'm happy for this to be the last," and then I bleed it and I was like, "Oh god." Um, even that is like, I'm trying to control when this finishes, and I'm like, "You
Okay.
can't." Like, you just need to just
Yep,
let it be, right?
yep.
And but even in those places, I am holding and I can see this real space of just hope of I don't know, stepping over that threshold into just a different way of being. And again, I keep thinking about what are the things I am gonna put down? And that whole thing, it doesn't matter actually how I look. And, I'm putting those things down. I'm gonna put down, I have kind of surrendered the good girl a bit of time ago now, but, is there still remnants of that turns up?
Yeah.
I'm putting that down. What else am I putting down? I'm putting down saying yes when actually it's a no for me. Like that's getting easier. Like just all those pieces of, what am I putting down that I no longer want to carry around and who do I want to step into? And you can, I mean, I tell this story, which makes me laugh so much. I met this guy once and he was like maybe like 29 or something. And we were having a chat about people and humans and stuff. And he said to me, "Do you know like the scariest group of people that there are?" And I was like, "What? Who?" And he goes, "Like 4 55-year-old women all standing together. They are terrifying." I was like, I started laughing. And he goes, "Because they don't give a shit. They just say exactly what you think. They like will cut you down in a second and then they'll all laugh manically like they're witches." And he's like, "It's terrifying." And as he was talking through it, I was like, "Oh my god, it's so true." It's so
So true.
heck, we don't care if you're looking at it. We do not care. We don't give a shit anymore about what you think of us because we're doing us and we're just gonna do it with fun and laughter, and I was like,
Especially when we're together. If
Yeah,
we're in a group of like 3 or
yeah,
4, then
yeah,
we're in a group of safety there, and it's like,
yeah.
yeah, whatever. It's so funny, my son talks about a similar thing where, he talks about on social media, when I was sort of saying, "Oh, the comments," and he goes, "Mum, can I tell you, it's your age group and women that make the comments on Instagram. Because he's 25, we don't leave comments on Instagram." It's true. Noticed it more and more once he pointed out, because I leave comments all the time because I'm so engaged in it. I'm like, "This is so beautiful. I have to tell this
Yeah,
perfect stranger that this is a really beautiful thing."
yeah, yeah.
Oh my god, and I'm like, "Yeah, we like to voice things at our age."
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? It's so interesting. Ali, I would love to hear what is it in this phase of your life right now that brings you joy? What is it that is just you are excited about or that lights you up? Like what is that for you right now?
Look, it is still always my kids. I am still so delighted by them as humans because now they're well, certainly 2 of them are truly grown adults, and nothing brings me joy more than talking to them about who they are and what they're discovering as an adult, and how the things that shaped them is something that they wanna replicate in their own lives with their own kids, not that they have them yet, but that being around them, and it just nothing brings me more joy than spending time with my kids. And I mean, and also working with Mary. Mary is just a joy to work with on Aviana. She's unbelievably enthusiastic and passionate, and she's such an inspiration for me because she is someone that is, talk about stands in her power. Like, she just is a very powerful, she's physically powerful, and she's very emotionally powerful and so confident. And when she talks about herself, I'm like, dang, woman. Like, she is like, she has no shame about, like, I am the greatest at this. We are the best at that. And they'll go, and she'll go, and Ali, tell your story. And I'm like, well, she's like, "Oh, for fuck's sake." So we had these conversations, was like, "You need to bring yourself up and, like, match me in meetings." And I love that about her, and that does bring me joy because I just sort of haven't quite had someone in my life like that, that's sort of gone, "Up, get up, start talking about what you know, start owning it." And, yeah, and having that matched passion with her, on supporting women, is that's very joyful to me too.
Mm. Don't you love the championing of other women? Yeah,
Yes.
and it's just it really is when you have a woman like Mary who does the photos I've seen of her, I'm like, "Mate, she looks like she could like bench lift me, like, she could just lift me. She just looks so strong." Yeah.
100% good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She is just so strong, and I just love that this is the new space that is starting to get occupied, that we're actually turning to each other going, "Yes, come on, you can do it. Claim that space. Stand there. I support you." For so many years, it's been this competition. It's been pulling each other down. If you're successful, then there's not gonna be room for me. There's room for everybody, and I think more than anything right now in this time on the planet, like, we need to stand really united in our power, in our hearts, like, really anchored and strong to say no to things that are not okay in the world and actually show that there's a different way. And it excites me when I just see women they're willing to really occupy that space and stand there and say, this is what I believe in, and this is what I stand for. And it gives others permission. And I think
Yeah.
that is what is so
Yes.
powerful.
So true. So
Yeah.
true. The permission. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have, as dark as days as sometimes the world feels like, I do feel like this is where we're gonna swing back into, like, people going, "Nah, this is enough bullshit. We've gotta get kinder to each other." We've seen so much unkindness in the world, I feel like. So I think that, yeah, I feel like I'm excited for, like, the next phase of the planet where we can actually, like, consciously be doing really nice things,
Yeah.
so
I feel like for me, the essence of this podcast is about the human in all of us. I often say if we could see behind everyone's story, we'd have nothing but compassion and empathy for every human. And I think for me that is the big message. We're all doing the best we can. We're all coming forward with all our protections and all those stories and imprints. And, the more we're aware of them, the more we can work with them, the more we are able to integrate them. And then we don't have to lead from them. We get to lead from our hearts. We get to stand in those true, authentic places. And, I think this is what we need to show the next generation coming through that that is possible. They need to see these strong, beautiful women. I was saying to you before, my mantra at the moment is strong and still. Like, I'm really enjoying working out, lifting weights I wanna feel really strong. It's actually the strongest I have ever felt in my life at the moment,
yeah.
which is amazing at 50, and also at the same time really master stillness. Like, and so this beautiful balance of strong and still just feels like my mantra at the moment as I navigate this phase. It's powerful because I think that's what it is. We need to be able to stand like a mountain. We need to be strong, but we can also really hold. the tensions of what's there.
Yep. Yep. Love it.
It's
Yeah.
good. It's good. Well, thank you, Ali, so much for your time. For those that want to find you, what's the best way to find your beautiful work and offerings?
Yep. You can go to aviana.com.au. That's AVIIANA. You can join me there's Aviana on social media. There's Ali Daddo on social media. So yeah, whichever way you want to connect, I'm happy for any and all of it.
Beautiful. Wow. For me, this conversation has been so much about, well, just honoring, well, the path that you've already walked a little bit further in front of me. What I really get is just what is possible. And I love deeply connecting with really powerful, amazing women who I think are in their heart and who are also so authentic in their realness of the struggles and the wobbles that we have, but also have this beautiful vision of what they want to hold for not only their life but the future. So I'm deeply grateful to know you, to have you here, to be able to call you if I'm feeling really wobbly. Like, thank you. That makes you happy. Yeah. I feel really grateful to be in your orbit and, thank you for the beautiful work. And look, I just really honor your journey from that 16-year-old girl that I looked at and went, I want to be her, to where you are now, and just this in such realness and just taking a stand for humans to be who they are. I really honor that. So thank you. Thank you for being you.
Oh gosh. Thank you. And as I said, likewise, I think the work that you do, from the work with parents and kids, and now this podcast, just again, humans being real, it's such a breath of fresh air. So yeah, thank you for all of your beauty that you bring.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening, everybody. Oh, I really love this conversation with Ali. There was a lot of richness in this chat for me, particularly in this phase of my life that I'm going through. I just love the gift of her beautiful honesty and how she speaks about this, and also what she is doing for women who are navigating perimenopause and menopause with her beautiful business, Aviana. I think it's such an important place for people to visit and also have access to this information. I really loved, I think, just the conversation we had around the burden of beauty standards and just aging in a culture that really worships youth. It's something that I find I'm having a lot more conversations about with others, and I just love the beautiful lens that Ali brought to this conversation. And also just that, menopause is a beautiful transformation. It's not something to endure or fix. It's just one of those other beautiful transformations that we often have in our lives, which I think really deserves the respect and attention and care and nurturing that many other phases of our lives also deserve. This conversation for me, I think, it's a real one, because it really, I am in this stage of my life as well. And, I love that Ali is just a little bit further down the path than me. And, I see her as a bit of a mentor to shine the light as we navigate, or as I navigate, this phase in my life. So I was so grateful for this conversation. I think it is amazing that at this time in history we are talking about this more and more. It's a conversation our mothers and grandmothers and great-grandmothers, I'm sure, were not necessarily speaking about in the ways that we are today. So I hope for anybody who may be navigating this phase of their life, there was some beautiful little gems in there that you can take and place in your heart that help you to navigate the changes that happen in life with as much grace as possible. Thanks for sharing this time with me. You can find my book, Own Your Story, at bookshops, or listen to the audiobook on Audible. I even read it myself. You can stay connected with Humans Being on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. We love to hear from you, so please leave a comment, question, or contemplation. And visit my website, laelstone.com.au, where you'll find heaps of great resources and courses for you to explore. This podcast is produced by Nigel Carboon, recorded by the crew at We Make Online Videos, and our original music is created by Josh Reed. Humans Being is produced on the lands of the Bunurong and Wadawurrung people. We pay respect to their unique and diverse cultures and to elders past, present, and future. Until next time, stay connected and don't forget to be human.